In the last video, we spoke about divisions and spans. Today, we will talk about CSS selectors, and really they are the most important topic because they generally allow us to write CSS. We know that if we want to style an element, like this p element over here, we'll go to file.css, write the element's name, and say color red, let's say. So what we just did right now is, we use the element selector, where you type the name of the element, followed by the property and value. So in my case, the element is a p or a paragraph tag, and the property is color, and the value is red. Now, if we go to this h1, as you can see it is inside a class, and this h2 has an ID. But we saw in this video, where we discussed about classes and IDs, how to select element that have a class or ID. So let's start with the h1 that is inside a class called h1. I'll go to my file.css, and to select a class, I'm gonna say dot and write the name of the class. Now I'm gonna say color. Let's say this one will be blue. Of course, the first one will be in red, which is the paragraph, and the h1 will be in blue. And because our h1 element is inside the class called h1, it will take or inherit the color of blue. So this one right here is called a class selector, where you select an element using its class. Now what if the element has an ID like this h2 over here? What will you do right now? Well, basically you will use the ID selector, where you write hashtag followed by the name of the ID, which is in my case h2. Now let's say the color will be orange. As you can see, this element has the color of orange. Why? Because this h2 has the ID of h2, it will take of course the color of orange. Great, now that we know the element selector, the class selector, and the ID selector, let's go to the fourth one, which is inline selector. What this basically means is, you will style an element inline. So let me go to this h3, and I'm gonna specify an attribute called style. This style attribute will allow me to write CSS. So what I'm going to say inside those quotation marks, I'm going to say color, and let's say the color will be green. Of course, if I go back to my website, it will be colored green. Why? Because we actually applied this style attribute and specified a property of color and a value of green. So this is called a inline selector. Now let me go ahead and copy this p element. As you can see, I've added another p element. Of course, the color will be red, as you can see over here. Now what if I go ahead and add a class for this p element? It will be p2. I'm going to go to my file.css, I'm going to say .p2 and apply a color of pink. So what do you think the color of this p element will be? Is it red or pink? Well, of course, it will be pink. Why? Because it is inside a class called p2, while the other element, this p element over here, is not inside the class of p2. That is why it will be colored in red. Now let's go to something more advanced. Let's talk about pseudo selectors, and we use them to add functionalities to our selectors. Like when I want to hover on this p element, I want it to change color. So I'm going to go to my file.css, and as you can see, this p element right now has a color of red. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to write p and specify the double points and add hover. This is called a pseudo selector. And of course, I'm going to add a color of blue. So whenever I want to hover on this p element, or whenever the cursor will land on the p element, it will change to blue. Watch this and look at it. It changed to blue because whenever I hover on it, it will change color to blue. So this is called a pseudo selector. The hover right over here is called a pseudo selector. Now let's say I had 4 p elements. Of course, all of them will be colored in red, and of course when I hover on them, they will change color to blue. Now let's say I want the last one, the last p element, to be colored in blue. So how will I do that? If I go to my HTML file, as you can see, they don't have a class. Now what I can do is, I could go ahead and add a class for this p element. But why doing it? I could go to my CSS file and add a pseudo selector that's called last of type. So I'm gonna say p, and I'm gonna say color blue. As you can see, only the last p element is colored in blue. Why? Because we add the selector of last of type. That means it will search in my HTML file the p element which is the last of its type. So because this is the last p element I have in my HTML document, and because we used the last of type pseudo selector, it will of course color only this p element in blue. Now let's say I want to color this second paragraph in blue. How will I do that? Of course, I could add a class, I could add an ID, but why doing it? I could go ahead in my CSS file, I could say p and say nth child and add a number right over here. I could say 2 and let's say color blue. And I noticed that I wrote child wrong. And yep, that works. As you can see, the second paragraph is colored in blue. Why? Well, because we use this pseudo selector. And basically when you add a number right over here, it will check for the second p element. So if I write instead of 2, I write 3. Let me go to my browser. So instead of the second p element to be colored in blue, the third p element will be in blue. Let's say I want to color this element in pink. What can I do? Well, I could do the same thing right over here. I could say p nth child and add a number over here which is 1. And of course, say color black. As you can see, it will be colored in black. But there's another pseudo selector that can help with that. Instead of writing this, I could say first child. So basically, if I go and refresh my browser, nothing will happen. Because it is the first child of the p element, it will be colored in black. Now I will add a link to Python's official website. So I'm going to say href, and inside I will add the link. And right now I'm going to add Python. So we added a link to Python's official website. Now if I go to my file.css, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to apply a pseudo selector on this link. I'm going to say a, and now I'm going to add a pseudo selector. It will be hover, of course. So I'm going to say when I hover on this link, I want to change to red. Of course, by now you should know what means hover. So whenever the mouse touches it, it will change to red. Now whenever you press a link, visit the website and come back, you'll see that this link changed to purple, right? So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna change this purple to yellow. I'm gonna say A, and instead of hover, I'm gonna say visited, and say color yellow. So basically, if I go ahead, go to my browser, refresh the page, click on it, as you can see, it's taking me to Python. Welcome to python.org. Right now, let me close it. As you can see, the color changed to yellow. Why? Because we use this visited pseudo selector, and we said that whenever the link is visited, we'll change the color to yellow. Now there's another pseudo selector that we can apply over here. I could say active color black. And what this means is, the moment you click on the link, it will change the color to black. Let me show you. If I go ahead and press, as you can see right now, I'm pressing and holding on the left click. As you can see, the color changed to black. So this is the active pseudo selector. Whenever you click on the link, it will change color to black. We now know the element selector, the pseudo selectors, class and ID selectors. Let's go to the last one, and of course inline selectors, not to forget. Let's go to the last one, which is attribute selectors, when you can select an element using its attribute. Let's say I'm going to go ahead and add this p element right over here. I'm going to specify a name attribute, and the name will be, I don't know, p2. And now I'm going to add inside of it hello world. Now I'm going to go to my CSS file. I'm going to use the attribute selector to style this element. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to say p, and inside brackets, I will first specify the name of the attribute. So the name of the attribute is name, and the value of this name attribute is p2 right over here. So I'm going to write p2. And I forgot the p, so p2. I can say color pink. If I go ahead and refresh the browser, as you can see, hello world is in pink. So this is called a attribute selector, where you basically just write the attribute of this element followed by its value, of course. Now, let me go ahead and add the h3 right over here. I could say name equal to my h3. And I'm going to write header3 right over here and close this element. I go to my file.css. I'll say h3. Inside brackets, I'll say the name equal to, it is my h3. The color, let's say it will be brown. As you can see, my header3 or my h3 is colored in brown, and we use the attribute selector to do this. Alright, that is it on selectors in CSS. There are in total 6 CSS selectors. So this is a test. Write down in the comments all these CSS selectors. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video and got some value from it. Make sure to subscribe and follow me along in the CSS tutorial. Now, did you know that you can create, remove, copy, cut, and change the name of files and directories using CMD or command prompt? So how about checking out this command prompt tutorial playlist? Or check out the top 5 reasons why your PC is crashing too often.